I'm Paige.
I'm Addison.
And I'm Jordan.
And the books we'll be talking about today are Mockingbird and Locomotion.
And the author for Mockingbird is Catherine Eshgren, and the author for Locomotion is Jacqueline Woodson.
The genre for Mockingbird is realistic fiction, and the genre for Locomotion is poetry.
The exposition for Mockingbird is when Caitlin's brother is shot in a school shooting, and the exposition in Locomotion is when Lonnie's parents die in a house fire. The conflict for these two books is in Mockingbird, Caitlin can't understand because she has autism. So she knows Derek's gone, but she doesn't feel that he's gone. She thinks she can still knock on his door and he'll answer.
Yeah.
And the conflict for Locomotion is Lonnie has to live with Miss Edna, but it's not really his place, like not where he wants to belong. It doesn't make him happy, and he gets challenged by this new kid.
Mm-hmm. And the figurative language in Mockingbird, Caitlin describes the chest because there's a sheet over it, and she says like how the vent under it makes it fly up and then fall back down. And she's comparing it to the title, which is Mockingbird, and her brother, because her brother was working on that chest, but he died, so he can't anymore. So it's like a bird flying up but then stopping. So it's like he was trying, but he could never finish.
And then the purpose, the pie for the author's purpose is to persuade the readers that some of these things can actually happen in real life, and they can be based on a true story for both the books, and to inform the readers that it's hard to lose someone. So just kind of saying, when Lonnie lost his parents, his whole world kind of collapsed. When Caitlin lost her brother, she couldn't realize it, but it changed her world drastically. And then we all rate these books.
Here, I'll just go first.
Yeah.
I personally rate Mockingbird a 4 out of 5 because it was a really good book. It's just some parts got a little confusing because there would be like conversations and you would end up reading it really fast, so it would get confusing. But other than that, it was a really good book, so I'd rate it a 4 out of 5. And Locomotion, I would probably rate like a 3 out of 5 because it was just a bunch of poems and it was really hard for us to understand. Like we had to read it over and over because it was just poems about different things, very choppy, and like just wasn't really a book to me, so I didn't like it personally.
Personally, I think Mockingbird was a better book, but it was still kind of confusing because it didn't have quotation marks over who's talking, so you never knew who was talking. It was just in italics.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good, and I rate it kind of a 4 out of 5 because it wasn't the best book I've ever read, but it was still like emotionally connected, and it was really good. And then in Locomotion, there was really honestly no connection. It was just about this random kid that they probably found on the streets and just asked for his story, but it wasn't like from her. I don't know her, but it sounds like it's not from her experience, even though it's written in first person. So the book, like my opinion, is a 1 out of 5 because it's not very good. Yeah, for Locomotion. It's not very good telling you what's happening and giving you information you need to know. It's more like, oh, Lonnie pooped. What?
Okay.
I would give Mockingbird a 4 out of 5 stars because it was easier to understand than Locomotion. It was way more descriptive, and I would give Locomotion a 2.5 because Locomotion was just so hard to understand, and we had to keep reading it, go back and keep reading it. So, yeah.
And so I give like this project probably a thumbs in the middle because like the book pairings, they go together. It's just kind of like
it was almost like reading a really good book that was actually a book to reading more of just like a poem that wasn't really understandable.
Which was the project, but it wasn't like it was
Yeah.
supposed to be understandable, but we
But
didn't understand it.
Overall, I think that the books were good. I just didn't really personally like Locomotion, but I mean, I really liked Mockingbird, so.
And in Mockingbird, it's kind of like, oh, you know everything instead of just knowing very little details. You know Caitlin's dad, you know her helper, you know everything like that. And in Locomotion, they just say, oh, it's Miss Edna, and then, oh, it's the new kid. And I mean, there's jealousy in Locomotion with Lonnie wanting to be like the new kid with all his soccer skills and stuff like that, but there's no like actual emotions other than sadness and jealousy. There's not really happy moments in the book, as to in Mockingbird, there's like, oh, Caitlin's finding closure. Oh, she's finally made up with her dad. And there's like fun, happy, jumpy stuff in this book, and it's different for both books.
And I agree with Addison on like Mockingbird it just tells a full story. Like it tells about her dad and it gives you perspectives on each character. Where on like Locomotion, it just says, oh, the new kid or Lonnie or Miss Edna. It doesn't really tell you about that person very much, so it doesn't help getting to know anyone.
Yeah,
I would agree.
And in Mockingbird, there's kind of like basically the summary of it is there's a girl, her name's Caitlin. It's not like this brief, but I'm just gonna shorten it up. There's a girl, her name's Caitlin, and in her world, everything is just not colorful. It's kind of like, what do you mean you're sad? Or what do you mean you're mad?
Because since she has autism, she doesn't understand the meaning of sad. And she doesn't like when people cry because she doesn't know if they're sad, happy, and she doesn't know what to do. And she takes everything literal. Like if you were to say to her, oh, break a leg, she would take that personal and say, oh, you're telling me to break my leg, and wouldn't get that it just means good luck. So you really have to like explain to her. And so that's why she didn't understand that when Devin was dead, that he was gone.
Yeah.
Because she thought that she could just go into his room and knock on the door and she would be with him, when in reality he wasn't there, and she didn't get that he was actually gone forever, I don't think.
Like, if you think about it, it's kind of like Amelia Bedelia or whatever her name is. She takes everything literal. I don't even know where this is coming from, but she's kind of like, if someone says, go hang the clothes or something like that, she'd get a rope and literally hang the clothes as you would do to a human as a punishment. So the book's very literal, and there's not really anything to the book other than like meaning and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in Locomotion, it's just Lonnie, Miss Edna, Lily, his sister, and the new kid. He's kind of that kid that doesn't have friends, and his teacher doesn't really like to talk.
Also, it seems like, I don't know, just from us talking, I mean, it shows that like there's a lot more to know about Mockingbird, and like Locomotion, we don't have much to say because there's really not much to say. It's kind of just choppy and there's no descriptive, but that's basically it.
And it's kind of like if you were to read Mockingbird, you'd be like, oh, I can't stop reading. And if you were at home reading Locomotion, you'd be reading it and you literally do this. You'd be reading it, like, and my voice got quieter and quieter and quiet. And then now some days Miss Edna looks at me and says, you need to smile more, Lonnie. You need to laugh sometimes. Maybe make a little noise. Where's the boy that I used to know? The one who couldn't be quiet. It's kind of like there's no detail to it. It's just saying stuff.
And
it's
if
like
you notice
the
what
one
she
that
just
couldn't.
read, it says like, oh, be quiet and quiet. Then all of a sudden it switched to Miss Edna telling Lonnie what to do. Like, it's almost like if you were to just hear us read that, you'd been like, what's going on? Because it's just like really hard to understand and everything.
Yeah, and it's sometimes like in locomotion, if I just read that and then I'd flip to this random page in Mockingbird and I'd read this: gripping the edges of the table so hard that her knuckles are pale. And obviously, we need to work on friendship skills. And the 5th grade has a hole. These girls need some educating. They need to learn some finance, I say. Miss Brooke nods, yes, and some better friendship skills. I know it. They will never make friends that way. That's kind of telling you more descriptive. Her knuckles are turning pale as she grips the table.
Yeah, and if you listen to that, that's just telling you, like, you can literally understand what she's doing at that point and what's happening with how much description it's giving on just her, like, by the table.
And you have to remember, I literally just opened the book, didn't see anything, and I just read. I didn't.
So if
kind of
you
flip
see
to
from
page.
Locomotion to Mockingbird, we literally read that where it was choppy, and then we read this. So
'Cause
it's just confusing.
You know
what we're
exactly
saying.
what's going on in that short
yeah.
little paragraph, and you have no clue what's going on in the 3 lines I read in Locomotion. It's kind of like, what's happening? Lonnie's doing what now? It refreshes your brain in Mockingbird so many times. It doesn't leave your brain when you stop reading for a week.
And it makes you want to read. Like, when I was reading it, I would get to a chapter, and then I would, it was time to go, but I was like, oh, I want to read more, to understand what's happening. But, Locomotion, I was like, I just want to get this over with because it was just so confusing, and I didn't get any of it.
Yeah.
So, once again, the books we read were Mockingbird by Catherine Erskine and Locomotion by Jacqueline Woodson. And we all think Mockingbird's the best book out of these 2 books.
And again, I rate Mockingbird a 4 out of 5 and Locomotion a 3 out of 5.
I rate Mockingbird a 4 out of 5 and Locomotion a 1 out of 5.
I rate Mockingbird a 4 out of 4, and I rate Locomotion a 2 out of 5.
Okay. Signing off.
I'm Paige.
I'm Addison.
And I'm Jordan.
And the books we'll be talking about today are Mockingbird and Locomotion.
And the author for Mockingbird is Catherine Erskine. And the Mockingbird I keep
I'm
saying
Addison.
I'm Paige.
I'll rate Locomotion.
Stop.
I'm Paige.
I'm Addison.
And I'm Jordan.
And today we're going to be talking about the books Mockingbird and Locomotion. The authors of these books are Jacqueline Woodson and Catherine Erskine.
Well, you weren't saying it, so.